Hey friends, how's everybody doing today? I don't know if you can hear, but it is absolutely ripping outside. Ice pellets are pelting the side of the saw shop. If you can hear the fan, I got the fan going in here behind the old Woodsman wood stove. It's cold out today, friends. About 50 mile an hour winds. Sustained at 40, gusting to 50, 60 mile an hour. It's gross. I was actually going to go cutting this morning. I was in the mood to go take another one of those spruces down. That's been really good firewood. It's perfectly seasoned. It splits nice. So I'm going to go harvest many more of those. Those are all dead and they're starting to fall over and hit buildings. And so today's not the day though, friends. So I fired up a big roaring fire and just been tidying up in here a little bit. So that's what's going on today. Old man Winter, sometimes he's the boss, and I ain't gonna argue with him today. It's gross. In fact, let's go walk outside. I'll show you guys. I had a couple of you guys email me. You want to see more of the Canadian prairies in winter? Let's go outside and show you what's going on. I got my back to the wind right now, friends. It's just rocking and rolling. Whew. Wind's just ripping. Visibility's fair. I'll call it fair. And yeah, it's just pretty gross out. Not the kind of weather for being outside. Let's go run back into the saw shop. Okay, we're back inside. Welcome to Canada, folks, eh? At least my part of Canada. Gotta be tough to live here. People tell me that all the time. People here are tough. When you got to go outside and it's minus 40, you just do it. Even the wood weasel yesterday, I hauled some water. She was not having it. I had to plug her in for about 2 hours, and then I still had to boost it with my work truck. So it is what it is. I think I'm going to need a couple of batteries in the old wood weasel. Let's talk about positive and negative pressure in a chainsaw. Intake, exhaust, but more importantly, transfers. I get all kinds. Transfers were mythology to me. Black magic, voodoo, short blowdown, long blowdown, medium blowdown. What does it all mean, friends? Well, it all has to do, in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion, positive and negative pressure. I'm going to get you guys set up here, nice and close, and we'll do some doodling, because I find, I'm a visual learner, friends. I find that tends to work for me. I'm going to get you guys set up, and let's talk about, again, what's going on in these saws. This could be chainsaw cutaway, I believe, number 4. What's going on in these saws, and in regards to transfer timing, exhaust back pressure, and all that, okay? So I'll get you guys set up, and let's talk about all this kind of good stuff. This is exciting. Okay, friends, the handy dandy cutaway. This is the greatest thing I ever made. I remember I was walking through the yard, going for my morning walk, and I thought there's got to be a better way to show folks how these things work. And then it came to me. Let's cut an 028 Super in half. Okay, so again, it's a 2-stroke, up, down. Okay, a 4-stroke goes up, down, up, down. You have intake valves on a 4-stroke and exhaust valves. Now, let's think about this motor. It's an engine, it's an air pump. That's all it does. It moves air in and out. Okay, that's all an engine does. And when we port them, we make them move more air in and out. And if you do it in the right amounts and volumes and at the right time, you get an absolutely awesome saw to run, okay? Intake side is here, friends, okay? Now think about it again, and I've gone over this before. This is a syringe. I use this for priming. Think of this piston as a syringe, okay? If I stick my thumb over this, okay, it's hard to pull. You can hear that little tsk. There we go. Okay, it is hard to pull. Now listen. Okay, it goes tsk. Think of a piston as a syringe. That's how I do it. Up, down. Okay, and you can hear it pulling air out, pushing air. Pull, push. That's all that this is, friends. Think of it as a syringe. My brain works in ways I have to simplify things, okay? So at bottom dead center, the exhaust port is open, the transfers are open, okay? There's your transfers there. We'll get a better shot of the transfers as we talk about them. As this pulls up, it is under negative pressure in the bottom end, right? The minute this starts going up, boom, right there, the exhaust port closes. This intake is not pulling through the carburetor, okay? All a carburetor does is meters how much fuel and air you get once this intake side opens, okay? So this is under negative pressure. Same as your house. If you're putting too much air into your air box or firebox of your fireplace, it's under negative. Well, the same thing happens in a motor. As this pulls up, this is under suction. That's why your crank seals are super important, because if your crank seals are leaking, as this pulls up, this will pull in and it'll pull raw air. Well, what does that do? It lessens the pull when this skirt pulls or clears the intake port. Okay, that's why an air leak is bad news in a two-stroke, because you end up with just air in here, which you don't want, and it lowers the suction when the intake port opens. Okay, so this is under negative pressure till there, right? When this clears, 20 to 50 thousandths is when it starts flowing air, is what I've read and I've been told, and I think that's true. So we're going to go with that. Okay. The minute this opens, however much suction, okay, however much suction, inches of mercury or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever you want to call it, whatever you're measuring it in, however much suction this builds as it's going up is how much it pulls on the carburetor. Okay, so that's negative pressure. And this opens, and at some point from here to there, the pressure in the bottom end will actually neutralize. You can't pull any more through the carburetor because this is full, right? Like a coffee cup. You can only put as much liquid in this coffee cup as it'll hold, or you overflow it. Okay? Now, as it starts coming down, it's building positive pressure in the bottom end. Okay? And as this clears the intake port, at some point it will seal off, and now this is under pressure. Okay? So we're under positive pressure on the downstroke, negative pressure on the upstroke. Now, there's your lower transfers. Notice the upper transfer is not open. And as this goes down, it's becoming a pump, and it's pumping air into the bottom end. This is why you check seals under negative pressure and positive, vac and pressure, because they can pass under vacuum but fail under pressure. So now this is pushing down on the bottom end, and it could push that seal out, and again your charge leaks out. Okay, now at this point here, the transfer's open right there. Okay, whatever pressure you build from here to there is what you have to work with, and it comes out of the transfers. Transfers come out, they hit the intake side, okay, and fill the combustion chamber. Hopefully at a point that as it's filling this, not too much of it comes out of the exhaust port. Does that make sense, friends? Okay, so negative pressure as it goes up, positive pressure as it comes down, okay? Now let's talk about the exhaust side. The exhaust side is under positive pressure, okay? So this fills the combustion chamber here. As this exhaust, I'm just going to move you guys down here. I'm sliding. The minute this clears the exhaust port, whatever you filled in here, air and fuel, is now what you have to pressurize, okay? And as it squeezes it, that is compression. It's compressing the charge. So it is under pressure. Now somewhere 30, 25 degrees before top dead center, and there it is right there, about here the spark plug fires. Now you got to ask yourself, why does it fire on the way up? Well, it needs time to ignite and create combustion, or, you know, when the fuel and air ignites, it needs time. If you ignite it too soon, when you pull the recoil, you get a kickback. Some saws that are too advanced, I've had a couple of stills like that in my life. If you don't pull them over just right, okay, on the way up, say it fires here, it actually explodes, or you know, whatever you want to call it. I just call it an explosion because that's a term that everybody can understand. If it explodes here, it's not on the way up, it kicks back, and that's why you wrap your hand, which hurts, right? Okay, so transfers fill, exhaust closes, compression. This top end is under pressure. That's why you don't want to lose spark plug, because again, if you loosen your spark plug on your saw, you are compressing it and blowing it out of the threads, and you have less fuel, air, and compression to ignite. Now, after that ignites, it pushes, right? As that ignites, it wants to expand and it pushes the piston down. Okay? Now, that force is greater than the force in the exhaust port and or the muffler. Okay? As this opens, right, 20, 30, 40 thou after it opens, it starts to flow real good. What does that do? That creates pressure, okay? High pressure coming out of the exhaust port. Now, at some point, friends, the way I look at it, the pressure in the exhaust has so much pull, it should, and hopefully it does, pull almost all of the spent gases out of the exhaust port. And then your transfer opens again and it all starts over. Now, transfer timing. This is a subject that saw builders argue about. And you guys know me, I don't argue. There's, you know, friends, some saws run really good with short blowdown and some saws want long blowdown. What do I mean by long blowdown? The distance between the exhaust opening and the transfers opening. How many degrees? I consider long blowdown anything more than 22, 23 degrees. Okay, I like a long blowdown saw. Now, what does that do, right? What does it do? Now, one thing about a long blowdown saw is the piston is under pressure longer on the way down, okay? So one thing I noticed in my time, because I time every saw that comes in here, whether I'm porting it or not, short blowdown saws feel zippier, okay? They rev up real fast. And I think it's because this piston is only under pressure for less time, right? That force is pushing up on the bottom of the piston as it compresses the charge. Well, the sooner you let it out, the sooner it gets the whole cycle going again. Now, I find, if you guys want me to be honest, if you have high compression, I find often the saw will tolerate shorter blowdown. And I think it works well because if you're compressing more, right, if you have a lower exhaust roof, you are causing more pressure. If you have more pressure on the way up and more pressure on the way down, I find sometimes the saw will fight itself. Okay? Now, short blowdown, 10 to 15 degrees. 20 is a good mid-range, I find. Now, a lot of the old saws, friends, your McCulloughs, your Homelights, your Poulins, they have short blowdown. Now, consequently, those saws tend to go a little bit lean. Now, why is that? Okay, so picture this in your head, and I'm gonna go to the white paper here, and I'm gonna draw a few things for you guys. I want you guys to think about things in the way I do. Maybe you don't agree with the way I think of it, but this is my thoughts on blowdown, okay? I've done short blowdown, I've done long blowdown. This is my thoughts, friends. Okay, so short blowdown. Exhaust, okay, I'll draw the same thing. This is your exhaust port. Okay, here's your cylinder. Intake's down here. Okay. Here's your top of your cylinder, combustion chamber, squish bands right here. Okay, you guys see that? Now, here's how I look at transfer timing. And it does relate to how open your muffler is, I find, friends. We're going to talk about that. What I like in a saw with long transfer timing is they tend to not go, and I mean long blowdown, okay? We're talking about blowdown. I like a saw with more blowdown. Now, some people don't, and I'm okay with that, but this is my thoughts, friends. The longer the time before your exhaust cracks, okay, and puts that arrow there. That is the worst arrow a guy has ever drawn on YouTube, I bet, okay? Okay, that exhaust comes out of here into your muffler. Here's your muffler, okay? That exhaust is going to hit here and make its way back. That's how two-strokes work. Now, I find if you have short blowdown, the pressure coming out of your exhaust is still greater than your combustion chamber. Okay, friends? So, if you have your exhaust coming out, okay, I'll put more arrows here. You have your exhaust coming out. Your transfer's open. Now, I've read all kinds of figures, 5 to 7 PSI. Maybe more, maybe less, but this is what I read. There's not a lot of pressure coming out of those transfers. There's a lot of pressure. You've held your hand over a ported saw's exhaust, and what do you feel? I have saws that will blow leaves 6 feet away. How much pressure is coming out of the exhaust port? To me, if you open the transfers too soon, your exhaust pressure, and here's the cutaway again, okay? Your exhaust pressure can come back and push down the transfers, meaning you have less stroke, okay? You have less stroke for the pressure to equalize and actually get fuel and air into the combustion chamber. Does that make sense, friends? Because the pressure coming out of here and the pressure in your combustion chamber has not equalized to a point that you can actually blow your fuel and air out of here. Okay? Now, shorter stroke saws, your 266s, your 268s, they, I find, like more blowdown. Now the question is why? Because the pump on the downward stroke, the pump is shorter. You're displacing less air. Okay, and consequently, a lot of those short stroke saws have big pistons, meaning the combustion chamber is bigger. You have less time to fill the combustion chamber and less time to build pressure. So that's where you put a higher exhaust roof. You give the combustion chamber more time to actually evacuate out the exhaust and have the transfer start flowing. Okay? Think about that, friends. More time to get the exhaust out and later before it opens. Now, what does shorter blowdown do? Well, it means your transfers are open less. But let's be honest, friends. There is... Here, look. Watch the piston at the bottom of the stroke. Does it move much? Not much. There's 7, 8 degrees in this saw probably that the piston does not move. You don't have a lot of time to get your transfer charge out and back in. Now, if you have short blowdown, and you've seen Buchan's 850, that thing has a wide open pipe. That is a short blowdown saw. I think the reason why that pipe works is because the blowdown is short. I'm not over back pressuring my exhaust. Does that make sense, friends? I'm letting most of the exhaust out. Now, that saw's ported. It's got a good carb on it, good healthy intake timing. I am pulling enough fuel and air into that bottom end that I can lose quite a bit of it out of here, okay? Without it going lean. That's the key. I find a lot of short blowdown saws, to get them to really cut, you're leaning them out. But the problem is, friends, after 3, 4, 5 good cuts, you know, if you're bucking, I find in my experience, and again, not everybody's going to agree with me, but I'm okay with that. It could just be my technique or my, you know, how, what am I going for here, friends? My elevation. Okay, I'm almost at sea level here. The air is very dense where I live. I find short blowdown saws run out of steam. when you're doing a big cut. So I prefer long blowdown. So if you have a longer stroke saw, in my experience, you can get away with a shorter blowdown, 20, 22 degrees. If you have a short stroke saw, I prefer longer blowdown. But here's the problem, friends, with a short stroke saw. You can't go too high on your exhaust roof because you will lose torque. A saw like this with a pop-up, you can get away with it, okay? So that is transfer timing. Shorter timing, you tend to have a zippier saw. I like a short blowdown saw for limbing, that kind of stuff. For straight bucking, I tend to like a long blowdown saw. Okay, anywhere from 22 to 25 degrees is how I like to roll. Remember, when that exhaust opens, you have a blink of an eye, not even. Think about it. Do the math, friends. If your saw's cutting at 10,000 RPM, how many times per minute or per second is this saw going up and down? Do the math. It's crazy. You have no time to evacuate the exhaust. Okay? That's why snowmobiles, dirt bikes with that expansion pipe, that actually helps pull the exhaust out without leading the saw. It still has enough left to scavenge. Okay? You don't want a wide open exhaust port, but you don't want your exhaust to be too stifled. A lot of these modern saws, friends, they have long blowdown, higher exhaust roofs. A lot of these new saws that I'm seeing, and I'm talking to other guys, they're timing them. Some of these saws have like 30, 32 degrees of blowdown. And if any of you have run a modern saw, a pro saw, they absolutely shred. Dirt bikes and modern snowmobiles have long blowdown, big transfers, okay? Pretty much everything I do comes from modern two-strokes. And one day when we get into the Yamaha YZ490, that is old school technology. That's how they did it back then. Huge compression. I don't know what the blowdown will be on that. We'll measure it when I put a wheel on that thing, but I bet you that thing has shorter blowdown than a modern bike would have. But so that's all it is for me, friends. When you're looking at your saw, and I'm not saying either way is right or wrong, short or long blowdown, understand what you're doing. Short blowdown, you're not compressing the intake charge. You're not putting as much pressure on the bottom end. When that charge comes out, it's going to come out with less force. If your exhaust hasn't been open long enough, in my opinion, your exhaust pressure will be greater than your incoming charge pressure, and it'll push that back, and you will not get as much fuel and air. Okay, and to me that equates to horsepower. Long blowdown gives you more time, and couple that with a really good pipe, and what ends up happening, you pull the exhaust out with a good pipe, it creates pull, and you can feel it, friends. You actually, when you get a pipe tuned just right, and it's hard to do, when you get one that's tuned just right, that saw will absolutely rip. You'll feel it, it'll be zippier, and it will cut harder for longer without getting too hot. You keep the heat out. I believe it balances the pressure in the combustion chamber as the exhaust opens. And then again, with a lower blowdown, and sometimes that means machine work, you got to work with what you got, friends. You can't always push your numbers just because of limitations. All these saws have different deck heights. Different cylinders can have a different squish band height, pistons. So work with what you got, friends. I'd say if you build a saw with most 70cc saws, if you go 199 on the exhaust, you got 20 to 22 degrees of blowdown. Don't push your intake too far. Because again, if you over intake the saw, as the piston's coming up and back down, you're still drawing in air, you will overpressure the bottom end, and that's where it starts spitting back. So, and you can adjust that with your timing. Short blowdown saws, I find, will often tolerate more intake timing than long blowdown saws. So again, if you're more leaning towards short blowdown, you can push those intake numbers. How high? I wouldn't go past 80 opening or 160 duration. Now some saws will tolerate more, 152, 154. If you're just starting, keep it in the low 150s. That way, if you make a mistake, your saw will still run. So there you go, friends. I've been thinking of this video. You guys are always giving me ideas. Short blowdown versus long blowdown. It's just pressurization. It's all in how you look at it. Air movement is what I do, and positive and negative pressure is what I do. And I look at these things the same way I look at it at a house. It's all about how much air you're moving and when you let that air go. And to me, I like longer blowdown. That seems to be the way modern two-strokes have been built forever. And, you know, up here, everybody's got snowmobiles, dirt bikes, stuff like that. And it's like, when you look at modern motors and how much power they put out, often they have bigger transfers and longer blowdown, meaning the transfers open later. Anyhow, friends, we could probably do another video like this on pipes. Certain saws like a more open pipe, like a McCullough. Some saws, your 266s and that, they like an open pipe. Again, they don't have a big pump in the bottom end. 266s are very short stroke, and they like a wide open muffler. So 372s, I find you can just put one pipe in the front and they usually work pretty good. Again though, longer stroke. So anyhow, friends, thanks for hanging out on the live. I had a blast, and we'll do one again probably this week. This time though, friends, I will either just put a community post or something like that so that you folks don't get stuck in a live feed that I didn't even know how to join. I couldn't get back into it, friends. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Take her easy. Stay warm.